I want to welcome our newest member, Frank Schneider, to his first public meeting. Board member Schneider was appointed on May 11, 2026 by the mayor upon nomination by the presiding justices of the First, Second Judicial Department of the Appellate Divisions of the Supreme Court of the State of New York. Thank you. Our first order of business is to vote on the agenda for today, which board members have received. Who wants to move the vote forward for our agenda on June 9, 2026?
So moved.
Thank you. Who will second the motion?
Second.
Does any member have edits or comments on the agenda of June 9? None? All in favor of approving the June 9, 2026 agenda?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous?
Aye. Oh. It's working.
Our second order of business is to vote on the draft of the minutes of May 12, 2026 board meeting, which the board members have also received. Which board member wants to move the vote forward for the May 12, 2026 board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Who wants to second?
Second.
Does any member have edits or comments on the minutes? All in favor of approving May 12, 2026 board minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we will now vote on the draft executive session minutes held on the same day, which more members have received and have been posted on the board website. Will a board member move the vote to approve the May 12, 2026 executive session meeting?
So move.
Will a board member second the motion?
Second.
Do any board members have any edits or comments on the minutes? Okay. All in favor of approving the May 12 executive session minutes? In favor?
Aye.
Aye. So now we will hear pre-recorded anonymous public comments from people in custody.
Viewer discretion advised. This video contains content that may be considered sexual or sensitive in nature.
Closed captioning is provided for viewer convenience. However, the accuracy of machine-generated captions may vary based on audio quality and speaker cadence. The Board of Correction does not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of the captions. To ensure the safety and protection of individuals using the person in custody comment line, names and PIC ID numbers have been withheld.
Hi, my first name is. My booking case number is. Again, my booking case number is. I'm calling regarding a grievance complaint that I filed. I was seen by the Board of Correction on April 15th, 2016, pertaining to a grievance complaint that I made. I'm at the Eric M. Taylor Center facility on Rikers Island, and I'm in housing 11 Upper. The grievance number is assigned. Again, the grievance reference number is. The problem that I'm having is still going on. The Board of Correction told me that after I filed a grievance, if the problem persists, to call back. So I really appreciate the office help. I filed this grievance on April the 8th, and April 8th of this year, I've been having this problem since June of last year. The Department of Corrections introducing me on my scheduled appointments to see mental health. I always see mental health once a month. When I was in the West facility on Rikers Island, I never had this problem until I got moved to the Eric M. Taylor Center facility of June of last year. And since June of last year, I instead get escorted to mental health for once every 2 to once every 3 months instead of once a month. And the Department of Corrections, the medical is informing me over the telephone that my appointment keep getting postponed because the Department of Corrections has not been producing me on my scheduled appointments. This happens when I call the 614-pound telephone number. So I greatly appreciate your office help. I'm in housing unit 11 upper. The housing unit that I'm in is right across from the grievance office. Is one of the correctional officers responsible for processing. So, when I had signed for the grievance on April the 8th, I told that there was a problem I had with the grievance. I told her it should.
The caller has hung up.
Something happened here on a Saturday. Some girl named that threw jokes at me. I get up to talk to the officer. She was in the bubble. So something real bad happened. I just really would like to speak to y'all over the phone. I just don't want to keep telling you it's real, real, real bad. So I'll call you back whenever you're available. I'll try again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye. It's occurred on Saturday. Saturday just passed. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
The caller has hung up.
Hello, my name is case number. I'm enrolled in Singer. I live in building 1. It's a mental health unit with sales. The situation I have is, what if one of the inmates comes here, she has a mental health problem, but she refused to take medication. You can't keep her locked in. So what do you do when she comes out and she's out of control? What does the officer do? What does the inmate do? You know what I mean? If somebody's doing something, like, they refuse to take their meds, the officer cannot force an inmate to take their meds. They cannot try to put it down her throat. They can't. So, but you have to let them out. So it's bad on the officer's part, and it's bad on the inmate part. That's a little bit high level. You know what I mean? It's not fair. In that type of situation, what do you do? That's all I want to know. Bye. Building 1, Rosen Singer. Building 1. Thank you.
The caller has hung up.
Hello, my name is booking case number. I'm currently incarcerated at the GRVC facility where I was originally placed in OBCC in a mental observation housing, and then I was changed because I wasn't supposed to be there. I was put in West facility in a dorm, and because I kept on complaining about the mail not being delivered for over 2.5 weeks, I did not receive my mail, and mail that needed to get out for other inmates that had legal mail and other things that needed to get out. They never were able to get it out. My family was receiving my mail 2-3 weeks later. I'm currently on the phone with my own. And my complaint is that they're constantly not. My medical needs need to be addressed. I did something to my calf and my Achilles tendon, and they did not see me X-ray That's one issue. I was supposed to be sent for an X-ray, wasn't able to get an X-ray done. Also, the mail has not been given out in days, and my mail has been here since May 8th. I have the mail received here. My uncle can verify that. Can you speak?
Yes, I have some mail that I mailed out, and also Amazon mail of stuff for him, clothes were mailed to him, and it shows delivered, but he haven't received any kind of mail.
Yeah, so I think something needs to be done about this. They always talk about they're short staffed, but they're not short staffed when they have to come in here and do searches, or they're not short staffed when they bringing people out to programs and all this other stuff. There's a lot of BS going on here that needs to be addressed properly. My medication is being tampered with. They're giving me Benadryl pills, and the pills give me restless leg. And I've said this numerous times. I've made numerous complaints with no regard. I've also made grievances. Also, my grievances have not been answered for me when I first came in here on March 7th. I was brought into Rikers Island, and I was brought into Rikers Island on March 6th, 2026. March 7th, March 6th, 2026, and they tested me on April 9th.
The caller has hung up.
Good morning. My name is, I'm a detainee at Rose M. Singer Center, booking case number. I guess the reason for this testimony is just to give you guys an update as far as the conditions here at Rose M. Singer Center in the A house. So I've been housed in Building 6 for over a year now with some of the deteriorating living conditions that still remain. So far, the control panel is still drilled shut. That's a fire hazard. The fire box is broken where the key is. That hasn't been repaired in over a year. The exit sign is broken. There's still no code card. The only steps that we have inside of Building 6 are uneven, where detainees are receiving personal injuries due to the steps. We have rusty pipes that give out groundwater. The mold is returning. Vents never flushed or cleaned, and the confinement problems still remain. We're still housed in Building 6 for up to 23 hours a day with 1 hour out for rec. As you know, rec is the basic minimum standard. It's not a vocational program. We're being denied medical treatment, therapy, hospital runs, and mail comes maybe about once a week. As far as myself goes, the retaliation for these complaints or testimonies is becoming unbearable. So I was invited to a mail officer private parts. When reported to the captain, I was backed into a captain that I was backed into a corner by a captain that refers to me as a Yankee, which means American. So the segregation still remains. I'm still being denied visits. This is a hardship, and I'm really concerned. But the only reason for these testimonies is to reach out to the community, is to reach out to the commissioner, or to reach out to someone of authority to let them know the different things that are still being done in Rose M. Singer Center. I'm still being denied visits without a cause. It's hard. There's still confinement. The confinement still consists. There's no vocational program here at Rose M. Singer Center. This is a hardship, and it causes mental health issues. So when you're not being produced to medical appointments, it makes it extremely harder to deal with some of these medical issues. I attend weekly inmate council meetings with the warden and with the director, the deputy director of programs, still to no prevail. So hopefully something could be done about the future of Rose M. Singer Center and the living.
The caller has hung up.
Hello, my name is my book case number incarcerated in DOC. I'm in DOC custody. I was at West Facility for 267 days. In CDU, involuntary, I had no tickets to be put in that situation. I was solitary confinement for a very long time, which actually the message had up. But I'm calling to make a complaint about I'm here now at the new Bellevue site, and this is disgusting. This is disgusting. Excuse my language, but they're not cleaning. Nothing's being cleaned. The garbage isn't being taken out. The bathrooms aren't being cleaned. They come in with the same amount they use. They clean the bathrooms. They clean the same water. They clean the rest of the dorm. They don't sweep. It's mop. Nothing's getting wiped down. Nothing's getting sprayed down. All they're doing is mopping and moving. Nothing's getting wiped down. Nothing. Not the tables. They use OC. They spray somebody for a little fight and stuff like that. And the OC is still on the ground. This stuff happened this morning, and around 9 o'clock, it is now 4 o'clock, and this stuff is still on the floor. We asked for somebody to come get, at least give us the supplies to clean it. Nobody's doing nothing. I spoke to Detective Melendez and Paulson. Yes. But it was just fucking, it was messed up. It was Melendez, right? And Paulson. Pearson. Melendez and Pearson came to see me today. I let them know the issues that are going on. Also, the fact that I'm allergic to polyester, and I can't. Like I said, I'm allergic to polyester. I can't wear some of the stuff they give us. And there's nothing, DOC is doing nothing to help with that issue. I'm trying to deal with the doctors about it. Doctors gave me permission to get stuff from home, and it's a hassle just to get anywhere. Like, it's basic underwear, big long johns, like everybody else, but just I'm allergic to polyester, so I can't wear it. It's gonna boil my skin. It's gonna give me an. But if somebody could please change this and help, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
The caller has hung up.
Thanks to everyone who left public comments in our dedicated line for people in custody. Have been shared by the department and with CHS, and all the comments associated with the facility have been assigned to the BOC facility monitor to either be resolved or followed through. Now I turn over to Melissa for staff and updates.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We share our condolences with the loved ones of Rashpati Ramkelawan and Umais Khan, marking the third and fourth deaths in DOC custody this year. Ms. Ramkelawan, age 41, died on May 18th following a medical emergency in the Rose M. Singer Center. Mr. Khan, 40, died on May 19th. He was found unresponsive on his bed in his unit in EMTC. The board is investigating Ms. Ramkelawan's and Mr. Khan's death, as well as the deaths of Barry Cosart and John Price earlier this year. As customary, the board will publicly report its findings and recommendations to both DOC and CHS to address systemic issues. We wish to express our heartfelt condolences with CHS Chief of Medical Service Zachary Rosner and his family on the passing of his father, David Rosner. Our deepest condolences, Dr. Rosner. We also share condolences with the families of department staff who have passed since the board's May meeting. Retired Captain Phyllis Boyd, Retired Officer Calvin E. Carter, Retired Officer Hugh Goring, Retired Assistant Deputy Warden Joseph D. Patrici, Retired Captain Alvin Moorman, and Retired Officer Shadila Tirado. Regarding census data, As of June 8th, 2026, there were approximately 6,709 individuals in department custody. Broken down by facility, in Bellevue Hospital Prison Ward, 58. In Bellevue Hospital Therapeutic Units, 93. In Elmhurst Hospital Prison Ward, 10. In EMTC, 1,432. In GRVC, 905. None in NIC, since between April and May 2026, DOC transferred all people in custody from NIC and its annex to other open facilities. In OBCC, 1,488. In RESH ESH, 154. RESH non-ESH, 472. In Rose M. Singer Center, 416. In RNDC, 1,018. And in West Facility, 660. On this topic, we are excited to announce the board's daily census dashboard available on our website now. The dashboard provides timely information on the population housed in DOC facilities, summarizing daily census data and allowing users to examine the jail population by facility, legal status, age, and length of incarceration. The board also displays a percentage of the population designated under the Brad Age Discharge Planning Program and the percentage identified as heat sensitive. These measures support the board's oversight responsibilities by providing insight into the size and characteristics of the incarcerated population over time. Throughout the month of May, BOC 7 monitors conducted a total of 419 tours across 195 open housing areas. BOC received 238 complaints in May. The most common issues raised involved healthcare, visit appeals, environmental health, and food, and complaints were mostly received by phone or by mail or email. Lastly, to aid the discussion to follow, I'll provide a recap of the first item on the agenda for DOC and CHS. On June 23, 2025, Special Investigations staff conducted a 6-week assessment of DOC's lock-in and lock-out procedures to determine whether DOC staff were locking people in custody in their cells during regular lockout hours over an extended period, and whether documentation reflected these lock-ins. The assessment identified 9 instances of involuntary lock-ins across 48 housing areas toured. The reasons for these lock-ins, as stated by DOC staff at the time, included splashing, attempted splashing, lice, incidents with DOC or CHS staff, inappropriate behavior, and refusals by person in custody to lock out. As a result of this assessment, BOC issued 5 recommendations to DOC and 1 recommendation to CHS. Some of the recommendations to DOC included discontinuing the practice of unauthorized, individualized, and voluntary lock-ins by utilizing tactics such as audits of logbooks and surveillance footage, targeted training, discipline, and issuance of teletypes. We also recommended tracking and reporting individualized and voluntary lock-ins, akin to how emergency lock-ins must be tracked pursuant to our minimum standards, and ensuring staff assigned to mental observation housing areas complete a 40-hour crisis intervention training. To CHS, the board recommended that CHS staffers report allegations of involuntary lock-ins to CHS leadership and document when this practice impedes access to medical and mental health services. We look forward to hearing more from the agencies about these topics. That concludes staff updates. Thank you.
Now we proceed to the next item in the agenda, discussion and vote on the selection of the vice chair. Pursuant to the Article 4, Section 3 of the board bylaws, the vice chair should be elected by majority vote of the board each year at the regular meeting of the board held in the month of June or as soon thereafter as possible. The vice chair should serve for a term of 1 year, commencing the first day of July and terminating on the 30th of June subsequent to the election of a successor. Do the board members have a nomination to put forward for vice chair?
I move to nominate Vice Chair Skip to serve again. I think she's doing a great job.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You have to say aye.
Aye.
The motion to appoint Skipper as vice chair for the term of 1 year commencing July 1st passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you again. We will now hear updates from the department on the agenda items, followed by an update from Correctional Health Services. The first item is a briefing on the implementation of recommendations made by the Board of Corrections on June 2025, assessment of the DOC lock-in and lock-out procedures. Thank you, Commissioner.
Hello? All right, there it is. Great. My colleagues, thank you, Chair and Board. My colleagues will speak directly to the agenda items, but I thought it was important to do two things. One, publicly announce my condolences to the most recent deaths we had. Any loss of life in the care of the Department of Correction is heartfelt and sad. So condolences to their family and the community. The second part about that is that even in the middle of a tragedy, sometimes there's light. And there were three instances where, one instance where the officer and Rosalind Singer came to the immediate medical aid of the person in our care, trying to render life-saving support. Somebody who was in our department for under a year responded swiftly, trying to help and render aid. And for that officer, I personally gave her accommodation, thanking her for her willingness, 1 year out of the academy, to step up and be bold. In EMTC, we had two people in our care, one who rendered mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, the other one who administered Narcan and tried to be of assistance. I personally went and delivered a letter of thanks to them. I sent it to their lawyer because I think the courts and the judges and their family need to know that even though their circumstances were, their confinement was in our department, they took action to try to save a life. And I think as we move forward, for me, that's about people first, that even in the midst of the storm, we could see some light. And so I want to talk to this board about what does people first mean for me and articulate the 4 pillars that's going to drive my administration. 1, safety. Safety starts and ends when our staff feels safe, when the people in our care feel safe, when their family members know when their loved one goes to work that they're going to come home. When people who are sent to us in their care, their family has confidence that when they come into the department, they're going to be safe until their case gets adjudicated. And it starts with drug interdiction. Drug interdiction through the mail, packages, through our front gates, and through visits. Program innovation, really seeding innovation in how we deliver services for the time that the people come into our care, young adults, restrictive housing, general population, and cell door replacement. I want to thank OMB, Mayor Mamdani, and City Hall for investing in a critical infrastructure project like cell doors. In our FY27 budget, we have $23 million to fix 1,800 cell doors, replace them. And we're going to do that work to ensure that the people in our care and our staff are safe. Population reduction. When I walked in here, a group of advocates I have known for a long time, and they do good work. They have a powerful voice. But the voice on DOC is not the voice. The voice in population reduction is in our partnerships with the courts, with the district attorneys. We have to begin to ask ourselves, what can we do to increase diversion, ATI, SRP, transitional housing? What can we do to take a second look for someone who's been in our system that could be safely managed and their case adjudicated in the community. We need to speed up case processing. And we're working with the Office of Court of Administration. They understand this. They have this as a priority. Making sure cases are getting processed. Right now, we have over 1,500 cases that have been with us between a year or 3 years or more, getting those cases processed. And then for us, it's transitional services. When people come into our care, we can't check a box. We got to engage and make sure people are connected to services in the community when they leave. And then court-parent strategy. Right now, on any given day, we have 700 courts we transport every day, to and from court. There's a significant number of them who get transported to court that might not even see a judge, but they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, they go from cell to cell to cell to cell, don't get back till late in the evening, and we have to use our transportation system to get them to and from court. The third pillar of People First, staff morale. Staff morale. We can't chart a new course, a future for this department if we don't have staff that feel valued, appreciated, and included. And for far too long, they have been demonized. They are not the enemy. It's the system that has been created over generations that have created the isolation and trauma for our officers and for the people in our care. So I'm focusing on recruitment and retention. I'm looking at incentives to say to our members of service, you matter, you're part of this process. This process isn't made in spite of you, it's made with you. Training, making sure our officers are trained in 21st century corrections. Not clinicians, not social workers, because that's not who they are. Our population, 60% mental Brad H., that's not who our officers are. They're not trained for that. But to give them the training necessary for them to meet the challenges of today. And then fair and timely accountability. And we're doing that with the remediation manager, realigning the organization structure, not looking at punishment. Because I said to our officers, we can't punish our way into compliance. Just like we can't punish our way into compliance with the people in our care, we can't punish ourselves into compliance with our officers. But what we can do is offer fair and timely accountability, which means if an officer has to get a case adjudicated, it shouldn't take 2 years. It shouldn't take 3 years. It should be swift and fair and have accountable elements in it. And that's what we're going to do. And then the final piece of People First is preparing the department for the future, meaning aligning our policy and our practice. Moving our policy to align with the practice means creating a data-driven department where we're using data, not like drinking water from a fire hose, but we're using data to give informed and strategic responses to the challenges the department works with. It means expediting and leveraging all of the resources of the city to build out the borough-based jails. And I'm thankful that we now have Dana Kaplan as our closed Rikers czar. In partnership with her and many other city leaders, we are going to build the borough-based jail and close Rikers Island. The last piece is expanding and opening up the outposted beds at Bellevue, Woodhall, and North Central Bronx. With our partners, Correctional Health Services, and our state partners, the State Commission on Correction Commission, we are going to make that happen. We are coming together. We all see the North Star, and the North Star are the people who are currently in our care and our staff. And they deserve our best. They deserve every ounce of every energy, all the energy we can muster to make life better for them and for the city of New York. So I want to thank the board because we're going to need to be in partnership to make this happen. I want to thank the board for listening and leaning in and recognizing that this moment is a moment not of frenemies, but a moment steeped in hope and possibilities and accountability. So I want to thank you.
I do have a question. One of the recommendations was a 40-hour crisis intervention program for the officers. I'd like to know the status of that. I'd like to know what it entails. I'd like to know how it is scheduled. I'd like to know who is supposed to be taking that training. And as a CIT trainer myself for the NYPD and be heard, I'd like to see that training manual, because you guys will never know what crisis is if you don't hear from those who have lived experiences. So I would like to put forth a recommendation that you include the voices of those with lived experiences, where we can tell you what it looks like from our point of view of what crisis is and what helps us. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to remain safe. Not just DLC, but the person in custody as well. So if you could give me that policy, procedures, when, how often, who is supposed to be taking it? Is the whole department supposed to be trained in it? Like, how do you do it in the training manual? Thank you.
Yes, Vice Chair. So the crisis intervention team training consists of the staff that's assigned to the mental health observation, as well as CAPS, SMU. It's non-uniform and uniform. Currently, right now, we at a 67.6%. It's a 5-day training, 40 hours. So I will definitely get you the training manual that you requested and the type of training that is given and who is given by and at what cadence and pace is given.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I am Sherry Ann Rembert, and I serve as the Chief of Department for the Department of Correction. And I'm here today to address the board's June 2025 lock-in and lock-out recommendation. As the board is aware, the issue at the root of the board's report is referred to as deadlocking and was first raised during the board's October 2024 public meeting. Immediately upon learning of these allegations, the department referred the matter to the New York City Department of Correction, DOI. Additionally, on October 29th, 2024, the department issued a department-wide teletype reiterating the strict compliance with Directive 4009 RC, which established the department's policy procedure for lock-in and lock-out periods, which is mandatory. This teletype also made it explicitly clear that unauthorized individual lock-ins are prohibited. I must emphasize that the deadlocking is not and never have been an authorized practice, nor is it a term used in official policy or recognized operationally. Just last month, DOI found that deadlocking claims cannot be substantiated. We defer any specific questions about the investigation to DOI. Regardless, the department takes this matter seriously and remains committed to transparency, accountability, and ensuring the safety of individuals in our care. Staff assigned to mental health housings are given specific training, including mental health, first aid, crisis intervention, conflict resolution, de-escalation, and basic crisis management skills. Visits and refresher and/or specifically training as needed as depending on the specific area of assignment. The department continually works to ensure that the staff assigned to these units are up to date on their training. Directive 4009 RC requires a facility to report on authorized lock-ins when they do occur, including whether services are delayed or canceled. The department has continued to reinforce the lock-in and lock-out policies throughout the use of facility leadership and executive leadership tours. Thank you for the opportunity to follow up on the important topics, and we welcome any remaining questions you may have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chief, for your testimony. I really value that you open up talking about how the teletype was sent back in 2025, kind of reminding everyone that lock-ins are prohibited per policy. Um, so how are you capturing when it happens?
We capture lock-ins, and lockouts during our central operation desk. And the teletype was put out October 29th of 2024, immediately upon being notified of the deadlocking.
Okay. So, but I mean, how you know that they're happening or not? Like we were investigating, as you heard, and we found that they occur. Is it through the logs? Do you watch the videos? How are you verifying that this is not happening or actually capturing when it's happening?
If I understand your question correctly, how we notify it is being captured is that the facility management team will make notification to the central operation desk to ensure that the lock-in is being reported. And when we do have that issue, the facility management team will look and see if the lock-in is being done correctly, and that the management team is always looking into cameras and Gentech to ensure that the lock-ins are completed, or that it should be locked in, because there are justifications of a lock-in.
Can you walk us through that process? I mean, like, if an officer inappropriately, involuntarily moves someone into the room as a lock-in, how do you guys get to know that that happened? I mean, just
Our teletype explains 3 reasons why you have an involuntary lock-in. The first one is during the nighttime on 8 hours out of the 24-hour period, the facility is locked in from 2100 hours to 0500 hours. And the second reason that you'll do an involuntary lock-in is to conduct a count when the count is off. And the third one is during the day for 2 hours to conduct a facility count, or when the business of having the persons in our care out cannot be conducted properly. However, if there comes a time in a housing area where there's an involuntary, it's not supposed to be locked in, you have to make notifications to the supervisor, as well as make notifications that there is a deadlocking to the management team.
I'm still having a hard time understanding how you reassure that you're capturing when this happens. I mean, our investigations have seen that it may happen because of throwing water or lice, and you know, we only get a sample of what we can find. How do you make sure that people are not locking in? It's a practice that has been going on in the department for a while.
Are you referring to the assessment that you conducted?
Just the fact that you're locking in folks that don't want to be locked in, how are you capturing that when that happens, when it diverts from your policy?
Good afternoon, Chair. I think what you're asking is how do we capture and identify those situations that fall outside of what the chief is talking about, the authorized or unauthorized lock-ins that we're recording. I mean, I think just as, you know, we have the meetings here, the board identifies issues for us, you know, obviously direct line supervision, the captains and other supervisors are supposed to be touring and identifying any of these issues, the grievance process. You know, there's multiple avenues for complaints and oversight and kind of, you know, what we just have general supervision to identify these circumstances. And when they're identified as an improper practice and should be potentially subject to discipline if required, and otherwise, you know, documented, you know, and I think that's the nature of what you were asking about, right? Yeah. Is there anything else that I left?
Yeah, I sort of have a follow-up to that. I think the issue is there a consistent process or mechanism to track and monitor and report individualized involuntary lock-ins? That's what we're speaking about.
Well, that would be, I'm sorry.
Let me just add one other thing. I know that you just mentioned, you know, yourself deadlocking. And one of the other concerns we have, of course, and as acknowledged by the department, there is no official policy with respect to the use of the term deadlocking, but we do note that staff still continue to use the term deadlocking, even in some of the log entries. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed, you know, department-wide, so that it's very clear that there's lock-in, there's lock-out, and there is no such thing as deadlocking as such.
That was part of the teletype that was initially issued after the Board of Correction meeting where this was identified. Additionally, and we came here and testified about this subsequent to that, we raised it consistently for a period and continue to do so at our weekly operational leadership meetings and the ACT meetings that we have on a monthly basis. You know, I testified at the time that we do see that, and we had noticed that, where it becomes kind of a colloquial term that was used at times for when someone is out to court or out of the area, rec or otherwise, and its cell is locked so that there can't be access to it. That's what we found when we queried staff as to how that term was being utilized. So we have instructed that, and we continue to do so, but we could, you know, accelerate those efforts. I don't think we've seen it, Judge, with nearly as much frequency as we had the initial look into the logbooks at the time that we had that meeting here. So we're hopeful that that's the case, that it's at least significantly waning, if not completely ceased practice, but we will continue to bring that up at the operational leadership meetings with our leadership staff, and then as we do touring with the line staff.
And on the question, I mean, the pattern, which have been around for a while, is that actually DOC tends to think about isolation as the only solution to behavioral challenges. And as you look in our investigation, a lot of the issues, you know, there were issues of behavior, but the response is actually isolating people that actually shouldn't be happening. And you have a menu of a lot of other options that you're building. Why is it that when people are throwing things or have lies, you have to isolate them even though you shouldn't do that? And if you have the ability to individualize that response, why don't you respond differently? That is not isolating someone which is against your policy and practice.
Yeah, I do think, you know, with the issue of lice and otherwise, that's a medical condition that can be very serious. I understand what you're saying, but that's a sensitive one. Nonetheless, I mean, I do think I speak for the executive team now and the commissioner that, you know, situations like that in isolation is not a solution to anything. That's not what we're looking to do. And we are, you know, this administration in particular is evaluating, you know, our practices and policies related to that. Nonetheless, we reaffirm that, you know, these lock-ins and unauthorized lock-ins are not part of that. Authorized lock-ins in the process to address those situations, we have ongoing discussions related to all, you know, different types of laws and pilot programs and otherwise that we are assessing those practices, you know, even when authorized. So I think, again, under this administration in particular, we are looking at all of those incidents, not necessarily on an individualized basis, but you know, system-wide.
Again, I just wanted to reflect that historically, either lock-ins, lock-out, close-outs, or any other term that actually kind of infringes on people's liberty and put them in the rooms is something that DOC tends to do. I hear that is otherwise now, but I think lock-ins are a reflection of that pattern. And you have a lot of other tools now that should not be just isolating people.
There are many ways to capture that, as I was going to answer prior to the general counsel coming up, where the captain and the tour commander, as well as the wardens, level 1 and level 2, are doing a inspection of the housing areas, they conducting a tour of inspection. They're looking at a logbook and make sure they're looking at each individual cells to actually determine if the person in our care is in deadlocking. And that is not, again, that is not prohibited, nor do we stand for it. We don't sanction that. So there are other mechanism ways that we can determine if a deadlocking. But again, that is not a word that we use, or the actions of that word is used for us to continue.
Thank you.
Hold on. Can you provide the board with a clear and comprehensive list of the justifications for involuntary lock-in? I am not talking about 7 a.m. count. I'm not talking about 3 o'clock count. I'm not talking about the count or lock-in at night. We need a list of what would be the justification for an involuntary lock-in by DOC. We should be able to receive those documents.
Yes, I can provide you a highlight of it right now as far as involuntary lock-in, which would consist of, as I stated before, during the 2,100 hours to 500 hours, as you just mentioned, 8 hours, no longer than 8 hours in a 24-hour period, and it cannot commence before 2,100 hours. The second case is when during the day, 2 hours when we have to, of the 8-hour period, we have to conduct a count. That's a part of the involuntary lock-in account, or when business cannot be conducted while the person in our care is out. And the third one is when we cannot confirm or verify account. Those are the 3 highlights that we do in involuntary lock-in.
Thank you for that, but I'm talking about anything other than that. I'm not talking about facility counts. I'm not talking about the 7 o'clock count, the 3 o'clock count, the overnight lock-in. I'm talking about why, during the course of a day, when individuals are locked out of their cell, would someone be involuntarily locked in?
So if I may, if I think I answer your question correctly, it will be the emergency lock-in, ma'am? Emergency lock-in? There are justifications of emergency lock-in.
Okay,
Yes,
can I get a list of that?
Yes, it's an off count, orange or red alert. Is it escape, a death of an individual, ballistic search, employee strike, job action, a disruption, or riot, multiple inmate, multiple fight, one-on-one fight that turns into multiple fight with SRG tendencies, actionable intelligence, whether it's going to be assault on staff, assault on our person in our care, or escape or a plot. It could be any other incident that poses a serious threat to the safety and security of the facility, which entails a stabbing and a slashing. That is the list. That is in our policy.
Thank you. If I could have that in a document, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to clarify something you said about DOI finding that claims of deadlocking were not substantiated. What time frame are you talking about there, and where were those complaints coming from?
I'm going to turn it over to the general counsel at this time.
Yeah, I'm sorry the dates are escaping me, but we had a Board of Correction meeting, and someone came and testified, a former CHS employee.
You're talking about 2024.
It was 2024, yes. And immediately after that, DOI took up an investigation upon our referral, and I think the board's referral, that investigated those with individuals in the housing areas. They spoke to witnesses. And I just found out a couple of weeks ago in May of this year that an internal memo that they had was unable to substantiate. What the allegations were at the time was just 24 hours in cell at extended periods of time. And they identified individuals that were named as people who had been deadlocked as being out of cell, and then they didn't substantiate and bring any recommendations to us regarding any allegations of that nature that were to be substantiated.
I see.
Yeah.
And in terms of the 5 recommendations that the board had made since that investigation was raised, have any of those recommendations been implemented outside of the teletype going out? I think, some of the recommendations are related to training, some of them are related to tracking, to make sure that we have a sense of, if there are emergent lock-ins that are happening in a way that's not in accordance with policy, that somebody has an understanding of that, and that this is something that, can effectively be monitored. Have there been any steps taken since then?
Yes, I went through the training, and I will provide the vice chair of the training policy, as well as the manual and the percentages of the training of the staff that we have, uniform versus non-uniform. The other thing is this, as I mentioned before, is a central operation desk, as well as once that notification is made, the assistant chief will make notification with the facility to determine to make sure that the justification is accurate for the emergency lock-in, as well as what action plan is in place so that we can minimize them being in lock-in. I mentioned COD, I mentioned training, I mentioned a follow-up to make sure, and I don't remember the other 2 recommendations, but we can explore them. I don't remember the other two.
They're long. I won't read them now, but we have them. You have them. I think it would be good to, if there are reasons why it's not easy to implement them, maybe that's something that we can.
And also, we have recorded form that when there is a lock-in, it has to be recorded on a form. It has to determine if the services was delayed or canceled, and what is the next action plan of that. Okay. But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember the others.
that's great. I think that's very helpful. I'm curious, I guess, maybe also about, there may be sort of some confusion in terms here, in terms of involuntary versus emergency lock-in, that, my understanding is that the involuntary lock-ins that are happening during count times and overnight is sort of standard, and that the sort of, quote-unquote deadlocking concern was really related to emergency lock-ins that were extending much longer than they should have been. And so, regardless of what the DOI said, I can tell you that during my 6 years at CHS, I was seeing this all the time, that people threw a punch and then they were locked in for over 24 hours because there were not enough staff on the floor and there was a sense that it was not safe to let them out. It was, people's hands were tied. I don't think anybody was doing anything cruel on purpose, but this was a systemic problem, that was happening throughout the jail. So I guess, one concern of mine is, are we saying, hey, this is a problem and we want to make sure that there are steps being taken to fix it, and you guys are saying, no, it's not a problem, it's already fixed? Or are we sort of agreeing that this is something that's happening, to speak to what Commissioner Richards had said, that this may be an area where policy and practice, are not lining up exactly, and that this is something that we're taking steps to try to sort of assess and correct?
Okay, so what I will say is that deadlocking is a colloquial term that is used, but the Department of Correction do not sanction deadlocking. I cannot confirm that the DOI investigation is substantiated or not. That is an outside investigation, but regardless of the fact that we do take the matter seriously, and that we do counteract to make sure that the facility and the management team and our staff are not using that word, and that we are training the staff, and we are giving information to the staff that you should not use that word, nor should it should be used, the action behind it.
Dr. Stossel, let's be candid. It would be obtuse of us to think that we don't have deviations from policy in all of these. So to answer your question, yes, obviously we do see instances in any area where there's things go on outside the scope of what's authorized. We reiterate what is authorized. We make sure policy is consistent. And again, we do undertake these areas of direct supervision and enforcing to our leadership teams that this can't happen. And then we have to identify and document and take appropriate action where necessary. So to answer your question, yes, we acknowledge that there are areas that are outside, and I think this goes even beyond the emergency lock-in, right? Emergency lock-ins are authorized. Some scheduled lock-ins are authorized. What we're referring to here is anything that falls outside of that scope, and that's what we are in agreement with the board that in any instance of that is to be addressed and corrected. And, we as a team together, we have to make sure that doesn't occur.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's very helpful to hear. I think our recommendations, were generally oriented towards trying to, see something that could be put in place to recognize when things that are outside of protocol and policy are happening, to have some sort of a formalized tracking mechanism. So if there are steps that are being taken in that direction, we'd love to see details and, get to hear a little bit more about how that's happening.
Absolutely, and I think we could, further follow up on the specific recommendations. I don't have them to rote now, but obviously, I do believe that many of them kind of reflected and reiterated what is our policy to begin with. So we want to make sure. Clearly, we want to be in compliance with our own policies, and then, again, however the recommendations could enhance that, enhance the practices, we want to undertake that.
I just have a final question. I'm sorry, but I'm a little confused. Can you give me the departmental definition of actionable intelligence? What does that mean? What does that entail? If you don't have it now, just please forward it to us, because I'm confused on what is actionable. Is it coming from a correctional officer? Is it coming from a person in custody? Like, what is actionable?
Actionable intelligence is coming directly from my Correctional Intelligence Bureau. And I will give you a final definition, but it comes from my Correctional Intelligence Bureau. And actionable intelligence would be possibly assault on staff, assault on our person in custody, a plot to escape, anything that actually we have to be proactive instead of reactive. That is all, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The next item is a briefing from the Department of Corrections on an update of permissible items. In particular, we look forward to hearing about efforts toward a consistent application across all facilities, beginning with staff training and public dissemination of the plans. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we'll give you an overview of where we are, and then happy to take any questions. So first, we want to say thank you to the board and to the public for raising the issue, and your patience as we took a holistic view of the issue in response to your feedback. In assessing our internal and public-facing policies and operations, we realized that there was inconsistency in how items were being issued across facilities, as well as which items were being permitted through the mail. Moving forward, we want to ensure that our policies are being applied consistently and fairly, as the commissioner said. And most importantly, that we're communicating them clearly and transparently to the people in our care, to their families, and to the general public. So over the last few weeks, we've issued a revised list of permissible items that can be sent through the mail and received via visitor packages, as well as internal and external communications regarding the changes. We received some very helpful feedback from board staff on those lists, and were able to tweak. And then the new policy went into effect last week on June 3rd. So the new list of permissible items is shorter, and that's by intention. Generally speaking, the items that are provided by the department will not be permitted to be sent through the mail to start. To make clear, we've removed most items that DOC provides from the list. We see it as our responsibility to provide these items in order to meet the needs of the people in our care, and don't believe that families or members of the community should have to bear that burden. We've also published a consolidated list of items that are provided so that people understand exactly what is to be provided by the department, so that families and loved ones aren't left wondering. All staff and people in our care have been informed of this change through web posting, flyers, posters, and announcements on tablets. I want to emphasize that this is a starting point, and that we are not saying that individuals in our care are not entitled to fewer items or different items. In the future, we are looking to expand the list of items that can be received by individuals, and are exploring avenues to do this in a thoughtful, safe, and sustainable way. And we're happy to continue to receive feedback from you all, from the board staff, from the general public. We want to make sure that people have both what they're entitled to and what they need. So I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. I know that you also are making a priority engagement of families, maybe connected or not. I mean, is that going on, and have they been a source of feedback or comments regarding these issues?
I don't know that they've been a source of feedback specifically on this in these last few weeks, but we would love their feedback, and if you have ideas as to how. I mean, we have the visiting working group. We can talk, because families will be represented through that avenue. If there are other avenues.
Could you talk a little bit about the working group for those who don't know?
I think there is someone else who is going to talk about the working. It started and is meeting. And there is a regular cadence of meetings. I believe the first meeting was in May.
And these are families impacted, advocates?
I think it's very reflective of what existed previously. I'm sorry I can't give you specifically the members. We could follow up with the board, but it is, yes. It's family members, community members, defense attorneys. We have actually several working groups regarding this. But yes, the visits working group, the conventional visits working group was reconvened.
I mention them just because they know more about this than we do, and you should talk to them. And on that note, what what is behind this effort by the department? Is this because you're responding to inequities in staff? Is it because you wanna, I don't know, why now?
So I think I think there are a couple of things going on. One is wanting to respond to inequities, and part of that is understanding that there was inconsistent application of rules across facilities. And so we want to be clear to the people in our care, to our staff, to families, what people should be receiving and what people can be sending. So that's why I say this is a starting point. We want to ensure consistency and make sure that people have access to what they need and want, and do that in a safe and thoughtful way and a sustainable way. We don't want this to be like, this is the issue of the moment, and then we sort of solve the problem and move on, and then it falls apart. We want to make sure it's consistent.
Yeah, I mean, my only reflection is that it's an important issue. I mean, for someone who has worked a lot with young people in child welfare and other spaces, belongings have meaning, and sometimes are actually really important objects in your transition to do better.
Exactly.
So just keep that in mind.
And that's such a great point, and that's why I say this is a starting point. And so we'll understand through feedback from families and from the people in our care what those important items are, and think through how we best allow them to be sent in.
Hi. I want to commend you for the communication, because I think that really makes a huge difference, when there's going to be a change in the policy, to make sure that there's clear communication and to solicit that feedback so that the communication, is a closed loop. I have a couple of questions about, I guess, the provided items. I love the messaging. I think, yes, these are the people in your care. There are items that should be provided. That's your responsibility. They should be provided to everyone. That being said, I think, again, in terms of the discrepancy between policy and practice, I was just at Outposted this week. Folks are saying, I'm seeing huge piles of laundry. There's delays in the laundry. Everybody's working on it. That's great. What's the harm if it's not a burden, if it's an act of care for a family member or a legal representative to be able to send more t-shirts? Somebody says, I have a polyester allergy, these are uncomfortable to me, I want a different white t-shirt, and somebody can send it. Like, why not?
It's not that we're saying they can't ever send. We're trying to figure out the right way for people to send packages that is also safe. So there are a few different competing issues. So it's not, there are still items that people are able to send through packages, through the mail. And also, people should be getting their laundry, right? People should be, and so it's, to me, it's like, it's a both and. People should be getting the things that they are entitled to in a timely and consistent way, and also be able to send those packages. We need to start somewhere.
So are you saying that as of right now, you're starting with the most sort of limited list, but that you are open to expanding the
Absolutely.
list, even in terms of overlap with things that you provide as time goes on and you get this feedback from communities?
Yep.
I see. Okay. And in terms of the publications, are there criteria for what publications are permissible, what publications are not? Is that a list that you can share?
I am going to turn to who from a secure. I think we have it's a work in progress. We can work on a list, and again, like, feedback is helpful. So let us get back to you.
Okay, yeah, I think as of right now, maybe people don't know what books they can send, what books they can't. Helpful to have some guidance about that. And then I'm also just curious, and we got some sort of conflicting information around this, about numbers of sort of articles of clothing that are being delivered right now numbers of socks, numbers of underwear at a time? What's happening?
I think honestly, it's been inconsistent. And so this is part of what we need to be consistent about. What are people entitled to? And to your point, like what's the difference between policy and sort of on the ground practice?
Right.
Making sure that what people are entitled to is actually what they're getting and in a timely manner.
Right, and I guess I would add to that, making sure that what people are entitled to is reflective of what they can realistically expect in terms of when laundry is turned over and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Stossel, just one follow-up on the publication issue. We don't, the commissioner reminded me, we don't ban any specific publications, wholesale or otherwise. You know, anything is made on individualized determination, and that's what's the work in progress. Like, how do we define that? What's the look in? But just to be clear, like, there's no, we ban this publication or that periodical or something like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is another area where getting feedback from families or from, you know, folks in the community who are sending things and having them returned, you know, may be helpful to just get some clarification about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just add on this issue of publications, it may be helpful and instructive for both parents, loved ones, etc. If you are not excluding per se certain types of publications, it may be instructive to provide examples of those that are authorized. And that would be based upon the ones that are commonly, commonly come into the facility in the various categories. So at least the senders will have some concept that, you know, it's okay to send the Daily News, it's okay to send Time Magazine, or whatever it is. You know, these are permissible items. It doesn't have to be an exhaustive list as such, but I think that that would be more instructive than just saying subject to a media review. Because that's sort of really very vague and amorphous for everybody.
Also, I'm sorry, I just wanted to be clear. My understanding is that there is a list of banned authors. Is that not the case? We'd like that list.
Again, continues to be, it's been raised here before, you know, by some of the Defender Org's comments afterwards, and we've been, again, looking at that, not developing a whole list of books and, you know, but kind of how do we identify, the definition of how we identify these security issues. So there are some, but again, it's very limited, and it's still, we're working on it, you know, wholesale to kind of figure it out and make it more, as the judge says, understandable and comprehensive.
Okay. Is it possible to share the existing iteration and as you update it?
I'll have to get back. I don't know exactly where we are in the process, but yeah, we could figure out where that is in policy and our practice.
Okay.
We'd love to see that list. The next item is a briefing on access to attorney phone calls in restricted housing, particularly concerning limits in the amount of time allotted to attorneys' calls in these units.
Good afternoon, board members. Jim Conroy, I'm the general counsel. I should probably start. Congratulations, Vice Chair Skipper, on your reappointment, and board member Schneiger on your appointment as well on your first meeting. Let me start by saying, just on this topic, our policy is and remains and always has been consistent with the Board of Correction minimum standards that attorney calls do not record, should not be recorded, and they're not limited in duration or number of calls that you can make. So that's the starting point of our policy. Issues relating to the attorney phone calls in RESH in particular were raised to my attention first, I think, back in March of this year, in 2026, by a Defender organization, an email into our legal intake box. And then by the general counsel, raised the issue to me directly, and even as most recently as last week, one of the Board of Correction staff raised it to our attention. We believe that back in March there was a technical issue where some of the calls were limited to a period of 6 minutes, consistent with the personal phone calls. However, they were not limited in the number of calls that you could make. That was a technical error that we fixed, I think, in relatively short order. Each time that this issue has been raised to us subsequent to that, we have confirmed that the calls that were made, and we've provided this last week to the board staff that inquired about it. We've shown that there are calls that are made in a duration of exceeding 6 minutes, multiple calls to the same attorney numbers. So the criteria is essentially if the number is on our do not record list, which is consistent with the attorney phone calls and any privileged phone calls, when the person makes that call outwards, it is not to be limited as the personal calls would be, again, in time or number of calls that could be made in a day. So that's where we stand. We continue. We did this when the issues were raised to us. We did it both for individuals to check their call lists to make sure they were consistent, and to the housing areas to make sure that there wasn't any systemic problems. We didn't identify any systemic problems except for what I just said, where that one instance where they were limited to the 6 minutes, though you could keep calling back on the same numbers. So they were not limited they were limited in duration, not in the number of calls that you can make. Nonetheless, they are now not limited in either duration or the number of calls. And we will continue, as these are raised to us, to address any of these individualized issues. I have a monthly working group with the Defender Orgs. I'm happy to say that this hasn't been raised as a concern by them to me in the last 2 months. So I'm hopeful, and when it was raised to us by the board staff last week, we also, through this mini audit, specifically identifying individuals, we didn't see any concerns or substantiated instances where this was occurring.
I'm sorry, GC, you open the door, I'm going to step through it. How does a number get on the do not call list?
There's an email that could come directly into my team's email box through legal intake. I have an attorney that goes through the list. And actually, we just worked recently with one of our Defender organizations to kind of get a whole list. We go through it, we put it onto the do not record list, which is sent to our IT department, who enters the numbers. And then that's how, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, he said a do not record list. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the do not record list is what we identify as the privileged phone calls. And that's through, it can be found on our website. Forgive me for not knowing exactly how to direct you, but it can be found there. It's emailed to our staff, again, my staff in legal. And we maintain the list, we send it to our IT division, and those numbers are placed on the do not record list.
And this is public knowledge, so I'm saying we have people in custody who have private lawyers who maybe have not dealt with DOC before. So, I mean, is this something that we're disseminating to PICs and their family members to alert their attorneys to put their numbers on this do not record list?
I believe so, Vice Chair, but I will confirm that. It's my belief it is. But I will say that any of the calls that we have that are recorded, it has a dual admonition. So it basically says this is a recorded line. If you believe this to be should be a non-recorded phone call, please hang up and then take these steps to get this on the list. And then it happens a second time immediately before the call connects. So we did that purposefully in the wake of the 2009 DOI investigation, the incidents. So that's, again, a dual admonition that this is a recorded line. If you are someone who requires a non-recorded phone call, take these next steps.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're meeting with the attorneys also, that's great. And I'm just wondering, for folks in custody who are coming across, glitches, is there sort of an internal, grievance reporting system that is specific to this issue where it can get sort of funneled to the appropriate place quickly and resolved quickly, given the stakes?
Yes, any grievance should go through OCGS, and actually, when this was raised by the Defender, the person in our care to the Defender org, and then brought to our attention, we went immediately and directly to IT. So yes, I mean, the OCGS 311 process should be done. I would also note that the calls to the CHS lines, they're also not limited, and they were not encumbered. We made sure of that during this process as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we want to hear from the Department of Corrections an update on the progress of electronic logbooks. Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon. I'm here to provide a brief update on the department's electronic logbook pilot. As part of our ongoing efforts to modernize operation and improve documentation practices, the department continues to evaluate the use of electronic logbooks in housing areas. Developed by uniform staff for use by uniform staff, the system is designed to replace traditional handwritten logbooks with a digital platform. This is no small feat, so we are taking our time to make sure it is well thought out and sustainable. We see this in other major technological projects as foundational in moving towards the borough-based jail system. This means we need to take the time to get it right and to embed these new practices into the culture of our workforce. Since it launched as a pilot program within the Special Management Unit at the Otis Bantam Correctional Center, the department has continued to assess system performance, gather feedback, and identify opportunities for further enhancement. We have also maintained an open dialogue with the board throughout this process, and appreciated constructive feedback provided during demonstrations and follow-up discussions. Soon, the department will begin training all APOS staff assigned to Otis Bantam Correctional Center on the use of the electronic logbook system. This training effort is intended to ensure staff are fully prepared to utilize the platform and to support future operational needs. Once APOS staff have been trained, the department intends to move towards electronic APOS logbooks in the OBCC. We will then evaluate and determine next steps and any associated timelines. This measure's approach will allow us to make informed decisions that support both facility operations and long-term success. The department remains committed to exploring opportunities to modernize our systems and improve efficiencies whenever possible. As planning continues for the transition to borough-based jails, we are diligently preparing our workforce, refining processes, and evaluating technology that can support future operations. The electronic logbook pilot is one example of that work, and we will continue to assess its role as part of the department's broader operational planning efforts. We appreciate the board's continued engagement and look forward to providing additional updates as our evaluation progresses. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. Is the intent to create a platform that will not just be to record, items like a logbook, or will be a platform that actually will remind people of the recording needed? Like, I know some institutions are beginning to work with that, right? Like we talk about every time that there's an incident, you have to write a logbook entry. Will the logbook be a passive instrument, or will be an active instrument that prompts the staff to do stuff? And the other question that I have that I've seen the technology, will it be a writing technology, or will it be a dictated technology?
It's writing, sir. It's replaced the traditional handwritten logbooks.
We'd love to hear more as you develop, and there's other jurisdictions that are trying.
Yeah, I don't think our Deputy Commissioner of IT is not here, and I'm not great at technology, but in having these conversations, the idea is that this is a fully interactive, comprehensive system that, ultimately we're moving towards a system, we're a bit away from it, but that pulls in everything, all of our systems together, that we have incident reporting and comprehensive kind of, visits, everything that we want to do into one system. We're a bit away from that, but this pilot and the electronic logbook is intended to bring in other systems. So it is not a standalone, it's not isolated. Ultimately, everything we hope, and again, I'm sorry for not being too intelligent on the tech level, but it's to integrate, as much as we can within the system, and then ultimately the entire systems.
Yeah, keep us posted. I wonder if there's other questions. Are you by any chance working with Ideas for E2 or anyone who is more into the behavioral science? I mean, like, the city have invested a lot of resources in using behavioral economics to kind of help people do what they need to do. And I wonder if you're beginning to work with them, or otherwise it's not
We
about-
haven't had, from previous lives, I've worked with Ideas 42. We haven't talked to them specifically about logbooks, but I think there are a number of ways that they could be, or an organization like them could be helpful in some of these operational issues. I think just to start, transition from a paper-based logbook to an electronic logbook is a big transition for this department. And so, as the chief said, we want to be thoughtful and methodical to make sure that we get it right now and into the future as we move to the borough-based jails, where we will have, this will be a department run with technology and managed with data, as opposed to a lot of paper, which is currently what we have.
Keep us posted. Thank you.
I think this is cool and exciting that you guys are doing this now. I'm curious about sort of the operational end, how people are getting educated about who's supposed to put entries into the logbook. It seems like it's an area where if everybody knows that as soon as they come onto the unit, whether it's an institutional aide coming to clean, or a visitor, or somebody from programming's coming in to do a group, if people know that they have to come in and sign the logbook right away, it really becomes an amazing tool where you can then really know a lot about services that were provided and what was happening on the unit. Whereas if people are kind of coming in and going off to do something else and not logging into it, it's sort of a missed opportunity. And I'm just curious about how sort of the training is happening in terms of helping people know how it should be working and who's getting that training.
Yes, the training is in collaboration with our information technology unit as well as the training development unit. They are doing the training for the electronic logbook in collaboration, both those units collaborating together to make sure that everyone is trained. In terms of the programs will be using an electronic logbook as well, using the same logbook as well as our officers as far as institutional aid that's in one of our areas. But the correctional officer will be making that entry, the aid post officer.
So in general, would you say that it's sort of the responsibility of the aid post officer to be making sure that whoever comes onto the unit is signing the logbook, is putting an entry into the electronic logbook?
Initially, the aid post officer has a responsibility to sign a logbook, but once that particular person get on the floor, whether it's the B or the C side, if it programs, ED will sign in the logbook, as well as the correction officer, the captain, and ADW, and the list goes on.
Thank you. The last item for the Department of Corrections is to address an update on the Bellevue Hospital Outpost therapeutic housing unit operations, including concerns about food, temperature, core production, wait times, and other operational issues that the DOC leadership is aware of.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Tamika White, and I serve as a Deputy Warden in Command with the Department of Correction, overseeing the Bellevue Outposted Therapeutic Housing Unit. As the board is aware, the facility, a first of its kind, opened in April, and I'm here to provide an update on facility operations and some lessons learned. The Bellevue Outposted Therapeutic Housing Unit is a 104-bed facility designed to serve people in our care with complex medical needs. This is the first new jail that the city has built in over 30 years. Not only that, it is a new model for the department, one that gives people in our care direct access to specialized medical treatment while allowing us to maintain a safe and secure environment. As you might expect, opening a new jail is challenging, even under the best of circumstances. There have been some road bumps, and that was expected. Some processes worked exactly as planned, while others required some adjustments. Staff has had to learn new policies and procedures, which are totally different from those on Rikers Island. While it can be hard to navigate through a new environment, we recognize that every lesson learned is one that gets us one step closer to the borough-based jails. So we embrace these challenges enthusiastically. Staff are working hard every day to ensure that the culture of this new facility is grounded in dignity, respect, and success. When issues arise, whether related to food service, movement, court returns, security procedures, or daily operations, our staff work with the health and hospitals, correctional health services, and our other partners to address them quickly and find solutions. What has impressed me the most is the commitment I see from everyone involved. Many of the people who work there chose to be part of this movement. Since opening, I have seen uniform and non-uniform staff work together, adapt to a new environment, and remain focused on providing safe and professional care. When problems arise, staff do not look for excuses. They identify the issue, collaborate with our partners, make the necessary adjustments. There's a shared commitment to making this facility successful. Most importantly, the facility is fulfilling its intended purpose. Individuals in our care are receiving access to specialized medical services. We are currently maintaining a 100% clinic production rate, while also ensuring people in our care are produced to court, that services and minimum standards are being provided, that safety and security protocols are being followed, and the facility operates smoothly for everyone who works and receives care there. This is a new model, and we are learning from it every day. We know we will not get everything perfect on day one, but we are committed to listening, making adjustments, and improving. I am proud to be part of this effort, and I am especially proud of the staff who show up every day committed to making the facility work. Their professionalism, flexibility, and dedication have been critical to getting us to where we are today. I would also like to thank the board for its continued engagement and partnership. Your feedback helps ensure that concerns are identified and addressed, and we appreciate the dialogue as we continue to strengthen our facility operations. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this update. I welcome any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. And thank you for trying to lead this new way of working together with others. You mentioned court operation, and that's something that we hear has been a challenge. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So some of the concerns that the people in our care had voiced was that there was a long delay coming from Manhattan Court back to the facility, just based on the different routes and the different stops that the Transportation Division would make. Once that concern was brought to my attention, I implemented a specific driver that would work directly with the courts to do direct pickups. After court, we get regular updates when their court appearance has been completed. My driver will then go pick up the person in our care and bring them back to the facility, which cuts, a lot of the stoppage. It cuts it in half. So it's been working. It's been successful thus far. And this is an example of once the concerns are raised, we do whatever we can to try to fix it. You're welcome.
I just wanted to thank you, Warden White, and let everybody know that we were there yesterday, and a lot of these issues came up. We talked to a lot of individuals, concerns about mail, concerns about laundry, concerns about availability of hot and cold water, concerns about cleanliness, concerns about newspapers. Warden White was extremely receptive to all of our concerns, and a lot of plans are already sort of underway to improve conditions there. I think anytime there's a new unit that opens, we're always going to expect some growing pains, but we really appreciate how seriously you're taking the concerns of the individuals. And I think, in keeping with what's been said already, just communicating with folks about what's being done to try to sort of improve conditions is extremely important, and we'll look forward to following up with you about how those issues resolve.
Yes, thank you.
Or more than we need right now? And looking forward, what do you think that feels like?
I think it feels good. It's a comfortable amount of bed space to have, so that everyone can get equal and adequate care. I think it's a very comfortable number. Thank you.
Now we're gonna, what? Oh, sorry, skip.
So Vice Chair Skipper has to step out of the meeting. Thank you for attending, Vice Chair. So since we will lose quorum, we will now move on to a hearing, not a meeting. This means that board members may not take any votes or deliberate amongst themselves, but they will be able to continue asking questions of DOC and CHS and receive testimony from the public. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Carlos Castellanos, Chief Operations Officer for Correctional Health Services. First, thank you, Board, for your recommendations back in from June 2025. We take this issue seriously, and we have continued to work closely with the department to address, any barriers to services, including medication, not only in restricted housing, but just across all the different jails and Rikers. Of course, in regards to your recommendation, it has been our practice and expectation for our staff to work with DOC at the facility level to address issues that may impede services. And when the clinical issue rises to a great concern where we are worried about a specific patient, it's expected that the staff would then escalate to the supervisors and or outside the facility. In this case, will be central operations, where our staff is on site 24/7 and is able to connect with leadership on the DOC side and CHS side to resolve that issue. So your recommendation has been in place, has been in practice, and again, what's really critical about the recommendation is that we continue to work with DOC in partnership to address those issues. Just one quick note, in cases where there is a security-related concern, we often just defer it over to the department to address that. But again, in cases where there is an issue related to health services, we will continue to work with the department on those issues.
Yeah, but we also were talking before with the department about lock-ins. From your perspective, is that impacting access to care?
So I couldn't tell you exactly if that specific item will have an impact. I know for a fact that our staff who, again, when they're on the unit, again, this is a point in time where we're on the units, and their issues have been raised to them, they have brought up this to the local DOC and local CHS staff. We address them. Again, the specific concern is really not so much of a person being locked in, but when there's a report of a person being locked in. So our job is really to take that back to DOC, and they've been really helpful with this review. And just to be clear, those cases have not been related to health services, been related to other stuff. But I couldn't, from my perspective, is that we address those things in real time, and when there's a clinical issue that related to a patient, we're able to resolve it.
Thank you.
Carlos, when people are not produced for appointments, and you get sort of the reason that's listed, is an involuntary lock-in or an emergency lock-in one of the reasons that gets tracked for non-production?
No.
Okay. Thank you. There's a bunch of different reasons that they track.
Do you have any other way of capturing the information? Like, do you have data of appointments that didn't take place because people were not produced or maybe weren't looking?
Yeah, I think our data is reflected in the access report that is posted on your website. That's one option. And two, there are cases we're still working closely internally that unrelated to your recommendation, we updated our incident management report policy last year, which encourages staff to report issues related to production. So that is still being, I like to say that it was still going through the difference, a different expectation from folks because it's been a new policy. But again, with the spirit of capturing all patient safety-related issues that are.
Do the clinicians reach out to folks who didn't show up to the appointment? Or, I mean, the staff, anyone at CHS?
My understanding is that when there is a concern about a person who have not made appointments, there's a review process by the site medical director or the chief nursing person of the facility to determine if there's a need to engage with that individual.
Just wondering, like, if you're the patients, you know that someone is kind of looking out for you, or at least care that you didn't show up. Kind of emphasizing what the commissioner opened up, like the humanity and connection.
I think that's right. I think that's we do that frequently in places where we get on site, meaning when we provide services on the unit. Certainly, that's something that may not be possible throughout the many different GP housing units because again, the scale of it is just. But I mean, I think it's point well taken, and we could probably go back and encourage staff to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. So now we're going to hear comments from the public.
Thank you. We'll start with our in-person commenters. First, Ryan Aquata, followed by Riley Evans. Looks like neither are here. Oh, you are here? Okay.
Good afternoon, Board. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and thanks to the agencies for the updates. Can't cover everything, obviously, but wanted to just raise a couple of concerns about the package issues specifically. It comes as a bit of a surprise and a disappointment from a department who has centered the sort of dignity of the people in their care and their public messaging about the transition in the administration, that they would change this policy without any input from families and advocates and defenders. As the department acknowledged, they have a visiting working group that involves families and defenders. They have a defender working group with the general counsel's office. Those meetings did not include legal aid as part of those meetings. I should have said earlier, I'm Riley Evans, Legal Aid Society Prisoners' Rights Project. We're a part of those meetings. We were not asked for our input about how to work on changing this policy to be coherent and consistent. And while we understand that there's a need for consistency across the facilities, that doesn't justify suddenly drastically limiting the number of items that families can send into their loved ones. And while we understand that, you got to start somewhere, that's fair, limiting people to 4 pairs of underwear, 4 pairs of socks, for folks who can sometimes be in the jail for years, without fixing all the problems that come first, and then changing the policy, puts the cost of this transition squarely on the backs of incarcerated people, right? Laundry has been an issue for years. People losing their socks and underwear and all of their property when they're transferred to different housing units or different jails has been a problem for years. I sincerely doubt that those problems have been solved, and that should be the first step before any policy change like this is made, because I feel fairly confident that unfortunately what's going to happen is that people are going to go without the things that they need, and then we're going to be solving that problem on the back end. And that's going to be a disaster that is felt principally by people in the department's care. So that's a really unforced error, and we hope that the department will reverse course on this, that they'll work with us on it. We are here to collaborate. We're here to work on policies and changes that will make life in the jails safer and more livable. Please engage with us. Please don't put the cart before the horse. Just very briefly on medical devices, we just want to emphasize again that we hope the board doesn't lose sight of this issue. We think it's important that people have the opportunity to get medical devices, including basics like glasses that enable them to see and be safe in the jails quickly through packages. It really doesn't seem like this is an impossible feat to meet this need without jeopardizing safety. If somebody has glasses at home that their family can send them, it seems like the quickest way to get them their glasses so they can be safe is to have them sent in and not ordered through the medical service. So I'll stop there and pass on to my colleagues. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Next is Ryan Aquata, followed by Natalie Fiorenzo.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Ryan Aquata. I'll be quick. I just want to encourage the board to continue to push the Department of Correction about the 6A work release program. This is a program that was utilized extensively during the pandemic in 2020. It was a very successful program where hundreds of people were safely released into the community. Very few people were rearrested, and it allowed the city to decarcerate in a huge and safe way. In 2022, Commissioner Molina widely used the program, touted its success publicly before inexplicably nearly completely stopping using it for all of 2023. Every commissioner that has come since says they want to expand the use of this program, but is not particularly transparent about in what ways or what the criteria are. But in 2025, during the staffing crisis in the state prisons, the Board of Correction pushed the Department of Correction to share their criteria, and you released a 2-page report making recommendations to the Department of Correction for ways that they could expand the use of that program without really needing to change the criteria in any way aside from timeframes. In July, I believe, last year, you shared that report. In September, the Department of Correction rejected all of the recommendations. In October, they rejected your request to explain why they rejected all of the recommendations. So I encourage you to push them on that again. My question for the Department of Correction is, in the early months of this administration, you've spoken publicly in budget hearings, in the press, in Board of Correction hearings about your desire to expand use of this program. And yet in the most recent budget hearing in May, said you're balancing public safety and walking out rhetoric similar to what's been used in prior administrations. And so my question to the Department of Correction, because you've changed your position on some prior stances from previous years of prior administrations on some issues. So does your position remain that you reject the recommendations of this report? And does your position, and if you do, does your position remain that you do not want to explain why? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Natalie Fiorenzo, followed by Tanya Krupat.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Fiorenzo. I am the Senior Corrections Specialist at New York County Defender Services. Today's agenda continues to exemplify that the board is concerned with issues that advocates, defenders, and those in custody have been raising consistently, and for that, I thank you. My colleague, Catherine Bayuk, will speak shortly about one of our clients that passed away on Rikers just a few weeks ago. She was a beautiful soul with very human, very relatable challenges that she faced while trying to overcome past trauma in her life. I just want to underscore the human element of what these agenda items mean. What we talk about here are the contributing factors that lead to these deaths, and they need to be treated like the emergency that they are. The board's lock-in, lockout report found deadlocking to be a very real occurrence on Rikers Island. And if you read between the lines in many of the board's death reports, it is clear that some of those who died in custody experienced deadlocking as well. Despite the board's recommendations and what DOC has said here today, this is not a practice of the past. I have personally received 6 reports of deadlocking in the past 2 months, all of which I sent to the board. Call deadlocking by whatever you want, but do not lose sight that this practice is deadly. I would like to take this opportunity, thank you to the First Deputy Commissioner Egan, to offer some suggestions to the permissible items list. There are some very strange gender barriers to the permissible undergarments that seem overly prescriptive, and it begs the question, was this policy created with or without the input of someone who identifies as gender expansive, trans, or queer? Secondly, there are a number of clothing items that are not on the list, such as undershirts, shorts, sweatpants, sweatshirts, and thermals that our clients need often, especially considering the consistently poor temperature control on Rikers Island. Although the new Bellevue unit is on the agenda, the transfer of the rest of the patients from NYC is not. Those who are moved to West Facility and Resch are also facing barriers and chaos in their day-to-day lives that need to be addressed. So please go check on those patients as well. As far as the Bellevue Hospital Therapeutic Unit, what we have seen our clients go through is concerning. I would like to take this opportunity also, thank you to Dep. Warden White, to list some concerns that our clients have said. Almost all movement there requires a strip search, which is in sharp contrast to the procedures on Rikers Island. This requires patients to undress in front of an officer multiple times a day to access medical appointments, to then leave those appointments, to speak with a visiting attorney. They feel very degraded. There has not been laundry done in over a month, which has come up here multiple times. There are only about 14 jobs available for the population of 104. Before these patients were transferred from NYC, their property was taken and not vouchered, and they have not heard anything since about that. And lastly, there is not dignified access to drinking water or hot water. Unlike the housing areas at NYC, there are no Cambros or hot pots. Those in custody are instructed to drink the lukewarm water from the communal dorm sinks and have no way to make the food offered in commissary. I leave you with this quote from one of our clients. I've been here for over a month. All I want is a hot cup of coffee and a cold cup of water. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tanya Krupat, followed by Dr. V.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Krupat. I'm the Vice President of Policy and Advocacy at the Osborne Association. I'm here today to provide an update as a member of the Rikers Visiting Working Group. By way of background and as a result of advocacy by the Jails Action Coalition, the first Rikers group was formed in 2014 and met for 6 years, ending during COVID. To increase the work group's effectiveness, myself, Jeanette Bocanegra, and Michael Klinger have volunteered to co-coordinate the community members of the working group. Michael is out of the office and has not weighed into this testimony, but Jeanette has contributed to it, as have several work group members. Our written testimony also includes recent experiences of visitors, and our commitment is to be accountable to and guided by them. As you know, DOC announced last December that they would hire the first ever executive director of visit operations, and Edie Brown has been in place for 4 months now. We commend the department for the decision to create this position and to have filled it quickly. Having a dedicated person to oversee visiting and focus on all of its aspects is critical and unfortunately rare to find in a correctional setting. We want to acknowledge Ms. Brown for the integrity, openness, and respect she has demonstrated. However, she cannot do this work alone. At the December City Council meeting where the creation of her role was announced, DOC also announced she would have 12 staff. To date, she has none, and we have been told that DOC has a hiring freeze, so there is no time frame for hiring any staff for her. If we are serious about improving the visiting experience, we must ensure she has the necessary resources, staffing, and support. If hiring restrictions exist, we should explore reallocating resources to prioritize visiting and family engagement. The visiting work group convened for the first time on May 1st. We are made up of those directly affected, advocates, attorneys, and providers. On the DOC side, the first meeting was well attended, including deputy commissioners as well as central visit staff. We also took a tour of central visits and were shown some visible improvements, including signage and overhead covering for visitors outside, new lockers, and an expanded children's area. This was all great to see. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 17th, but the work to improve visits is ongoing and happens outside of our meetings, so we ask that you, the board, include visiting on the agenda of your next and every meeting. As members of the Visit Work Group, the priority issues we hope to work on include communication with visitors, non-contact visits, temperatures in visiting rooms, the availability of overgarments, examining the quarterly visit reports, which also has a reasons and other category that we don't know what that means, and hundreds of visitors don't get their visits because of other. We also want to look at visitor wait times. We are very happy to see that DOC has issued their first report on child visitors, revealing that more than 10,700 children visited Rikers in 2025. RNDC had 2,132 child visitors, and the average wait time for child visitors was 2 hours and 40 minutes. The average wait time for child visitors to Resch Annex was over 4 hours. Clearly, there is work to be done to reduce these wait times, which are too long for any visitor, but especially for children. We stand ready to partner with and support Edie Brown in her new role, work with the department at all levels and with the board to accomplish meaningful improvements in visiting and build a foundation for the more humane borough-based jails we have been promised. Strong family connections improve outcomes, support rehabilitation, improve corrections officers' work experience, and maintain hope inside and out. This can only be achieved by shining a consistent light on visiting, and we ask you to start by adding this to your standing agenda items. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Victoria A. Phillips, followed by Jennifer Parrish.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Can you hear me good? Because I know it was acting up. Y'all hear me? Okay, very good. I'm Chaplain Dr. Victoria A. Phillips. Today I'm going to be speaking for myself. I just want to highlight a few things really quickly. You know, I think I need to ask the commissioner more questions when he speaks. You know, it's very good for him to come up and say eloquent stuff and give visions, but we need concrete answers. And so I want to hold y'all accountable to do that next time he get on the mic. I also want to take this time to thank the commissioner, because I know it is because he is here that these meetings are flowing so well. It still might seem like fluff, but many of DOC's staff are so respectful in their replies. And I know that's on account of Commissioner Richards and all the work he's doing, so I want to highlight that. I also want to say that, you know, in real time, there are a lot of things that wasn't even addressed today. This is already June. I know the waterman was here. I don't know his title, but I know the waterman was here last month to talk about what that would look like and how that would roll out. But now we're in June. And I caught him at the end of the meeting afterwards and was talking to him about some things off record. And so I would like to see him back at these meetings too, to come before y'all to answer some questions in real time. You know, we already have 4 lives lost this year, and in summertime is very brutal and crucial in them correctional walls. So deal with that in real time as well. Also, I just want to say, you know, DOC, yes, we all have to work together, and I wear many hats, but DOC also has to be held accountable in real time. And I'm very happy that, again, I want to give thanks to the commissioner for getting the visiting group back. I know I presented to you last fall about how the Jails Act Coalition had got one together years ago. I want to thank the commissioner, and I also want to highlight on the record, I say a lot of negative stuff, but I want to highlight E.D. Brown, because although I'm not a part of the visiting group, you know me, I'm going to make sure I know what's going on and how it's moving. And I want to say that she's not here. I wish I could tell her to her face, but she showed up in a great way, and the public actually appreciates her. And so I want to highlight that, because I know this is a new role for her, but you got to give people their flowers in real time. And I also want to say, since we're doing so good with the visiting group, oh yeah, there was a point to all of that. So since we're doing so good with the visiting group, I want to also highlight that there's been many years that I have talked and fought for the women, and now that we already got 400 of them, we need to work on getting them off the island. But I want to talk about the young adults, because we see them all the time in the news, and it's always negative, but we aren't talking enough about them right here in this room. And, you know, over the years, Chair, you even was on the Young Adult Task Force with me at one time until we was bamboozled and pushed out by the last administration. But now those people have even gone or retired, and I won't name names. And so I think that should be revived, because you cannot tell people to be different, tell young people that we believe in you, and then continue to throw them to the wolves, or not have in real time things being done. And I just want to highlight, you know, when nobody was going into Rikers during the pandemic, I was in Rikers because of my kids and being co-chair of the Young Adult Task Force. And today we was talking about reading materials and things like that. And I want to highlight on the record, there was a time when Chief Caputo was Warden Caputo, and he used to walk those halls with me. And people don't realize that when nobody was coming into the island and y'all left our people, our community members, whether you a CBO or not, y'all dropped the ball when y'all stopped coming to the island, and y'all left our people just up for everything. Warden Caputo allowed me to collect books. He allowed me to collect DVDs so that our community members in the island had something to read and watch. And so I appreciate the fact that you even brought it up, like, well, what are the family members going to look at as a list? Because it is hard to make sure that everything is in DOC's appropriate order. So I just want to highlight that, because every time I talk, it don't have to be negative. And these are things that truly can help community members behind the walls and should be taken care of now rather than later. There's so much I could say, but today, I'm just leave it at that. Peace and blessings, y'all.
Thank you. Jennifer Parrish.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Parrish. I work at the Urban Justice Center Mental Health Project, and
I'm a member of the Jails Action Coalition and the Halt Solitary campaign. And I really wasn't planning on speaking at this meeting, but there were some things that were said that I just feel like I have to comment on. First, I appreciate the visions and the value of the new administration. I think we heard really important things coming from the new commissioner. And I really appreciate this board because you know a lot about what the issues are, you know the facts on the ground, and you're asking good questions to them. What I'm concerned about is that we still had answers from the department that were not consistent with what's happening on the ground. Just like in the conversation about deadlocking. Let's not have a fantasy that we're gonna just stop calling it deadlocking and it's gonna go away. Whatever you call it, it's happening. Thank goodness that you're on the board and you worked inside so you could actually confront them on that because they weren't acknowledging it. They were reading from directives, telling you things, and it took all of that time at the meeting to get to the facts of the issue. So I appreciate the board for it. I hope in future meetings that the department will come here prepared to talk about what's actually going inside because we can't come up with solutions if we can't even address the facts. So I appreciated that eventually they said, yes, we're trying to get rid of it, but it does happen, whatever we call it. The other thing I want to just speak on, and I really didn't need to speak on this because Riley spoke on it so eloquently, but it's about the packages. It's great. There was an issue raised. There's a problem with the packages. The response should not be to say, well, we want to make it clear, so we're going to start with a clear list, and we're going to leave off all the things we should be providing because we should be providing them. Well, yes, of course you should, but you're not. The fact is that you're not. How much have we talked on this board about the laundry? On and on and on. So how can you say, yes, you're supposed to provide it, but you're not? And we even know at the new unit at Bellevue, which we all support, which is great, there's still a problem with laundry. So let's not have a package list that says, that's a fantasy, basically. That's all I'm saying, is let's not live in what we want it to be in 10 years. We need to live in what it is now, address the problems as they are now, and it may be slow going and incremental, but let's do that in real time. So even when they came up to talk about Bellevue, it was just, you know, a bunch of platitudes or a bunch of generalities, I'll say. And then because you'd been there, thank goodness for going there, you could ask specific questions about it. So I hope the department, I hope that the people in the administration are actually getting people on the ground so that they do know this is a real issue and this is how we're going to address it. Finally, I'm so glad that this administration cares about decarceration and reducing the number of people inside. And I recognize that it's not really the department or the board that is in charge of deciding how many people go to Rikers Island. But the district attorney and the judges are also not under the mayor's control. So it's great that they're convening meetings and talking about it. And I hope that leads to solutions. And I think it will, because I think there are people in the courts who recognize it. But there was an agency that was left out, and that's the police department. They're the ones out there deciding what are we arresting people for, how are we processing things on that end of it. And that is under this administration. So I hope that the commissioner is also reaching out to the police department to include them in this conversation about who's inside, because we have too many people in jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last commenter is online, Catherine Legueros Bajuk. Catherine, please raise your hand on Microsoft Teams so we can make you a presenter.
Hi, can you enable my camera? It won't let me do it.
Yes, if you put on your camera, we'll be able to see you and we can hear you.
It's not letting me do my camera, so it just says only select participants can share video. Oh, no. Oh.
There seems to be a problem with Teams, but we can hear you if you want to start your testimony.
No worries. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Legueros Bajuk. I'm a 32-year public defender, mental health attorney specialist at New York County Defender Services. And I'm here today to tell you all about my client, Rashpati Ramkelawan. Some of you loss, as it should be to us all. Some weeks ago, they came to a rally organized by some of the very good people that have testified before you today. They were in mourning, they were in shock that someone they loved had died while her life was in the custody and care of our city. I told them that when I last saw Rashpati 3 days before she died, she told me that she knew that they'd never given up on her. And we all, everyone at the rally told them, neither will we. While her loved ones are left with broken hearts and too many unanswered questions about what happened to her. As we said to them then, we say to you all now, all of us here will keep pushing until they get the answers that they deserve, until they get the justice that they deserve. Can they also count on you? Her name is Rashpati Ramkelawan. Please do not forget that, or that hers was a life lost too soon. Thank you.
That's our last person. Thank everyone who attended and participated in today's meeting. The board next meeting is scheduled to take place on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Mm.